And good morning. Welcome. It is great to be here this morning. It is going to be a cold week, but that is okay because we have warm hearts and great kindred spirits. So we are right here talking to you live on WFNC 640 AM. And hey, we're talking real estate with Team Harris, and I'm Wendy Harris, your host, broker owner of Team Harris Real Estate right here in Fayetteville, North Carolina. But today we've got a special guest with us on the radio show, and it is fantastic. This is one of my favorite people and professionals. Have known each other for a very, very long time in the mortgage industry, in the lending industry, in the money business. Let's be very clear, in the other people's monies business. This is a fun business to be a part of. So welcome to the show, Chet. How are you this morning?
Hey, Wendy. I'm absolutely fantastic and honored to be here with you. And it's great to be with you because we have known each other for many years and kind of admired you from a distance and up close now. So thanks for having me.
That's right. That's right. It's like our orbits circled each other for so long.
Exactly.
And you were in the lending industry and you did such great things. And then, I love people who are ambitious. People talk to me and they're like, man, Wendy, you do so much for the community. You're involved in these committees. You're always doing stuff in this realtor world. You ran for president of NC Realtors. Thank you so much for everything that you do. But you took it to a whole new level. You threw yourself straight into the blue hole where all the sharks feed. And you said, I'm going to run for a political office. Right? That's terrifying to me on so many levels, mostly because the world's just such a mean place these days. But you live up in Sanford and you ran for mayor and won. And, I'm going to, I throw credit where credit is due. You came into the role as mayor with this sort of all your backgrounds of real estate, of lending, of mortgage, of working with people and listening to them all day long. And you had ideas. I mean, the things that how long were you mayor in Sanford?
Yeah, I was mayor for almost 9 years. We had to serve an extra year due to the census during COVID being late. So 2 terms plus almost another year.
Two terms plus a tag on.
Yeah.
So wow, almost 9 years. You came in and you did something really cool. And what you were able to do is actually the reverse reason of why I'm a registered independent voter, because I'm so mad at all the politics that go on and the way people don't collaborate anymore and they don't work together. And you came in and mayor and you're like, we're going to all start communicating and get along. It's going to be a happy place. Sanford's going to be the nice town in the South, and we're going to do things that make sense. That's my take of your term as mayor.
Well, that's a very fair take. That's a happy take. Yeah, that was 2012, 13 when I decided to run. And, we had recovered from this terrible recession, or we were still recovering. We were dead flat in growth. And I had come up with this open for business agenda that really caught on. And so, when you show people what's in it for them and what we could do together, it wasn't as hard as you might believe. We were hungry for some vision and some leadership. And so, I'm a community builder. That's what I didn't really consider myself a politician, but more of a community builder. Yeah. And it really caught on, and we got a lot done. We had a small town like we were in. We had a $2 billion tax base increase with industry that we recruited, and everything just fell in behind it with the job creation and the revitalization we did. So it was fun, and I got a lot of notoriety for it, and it helped my business. I mean, people appreciated it, and man, did I learn a lot about development and building and all these things that go along with growing a community. So yeah, I was crazy to do it because I was running a really busy mortgage team, but I learned how to delegate, Wendy, like you do, and it kind of, all things can happen if you set the vision and then get out of people's way.
That's true. A couple of things that you said really pinged off for me. And one was, number one, that you didn't consider yourself a politician. You considered yourself a community builder. In everything that I do, people assume that I like politics.
Right.
And I don't like politics at all.
Yeah, I know you. I don't think you're a politician at all.
I can't stand politics. But what I do like, what fascinates me, is policy.
Yeah.
particularly good policy interests
Yeah.
me a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Yeah.
I love policy, and unfortunately policy and politics sometimes collide in the middle, but so I just really appreciate the fact that you're like, hey,
Yeah.
I'm not a politician. I was,
Well,
right person,
the
right
truth is,
place.
though, everything is political. It doesn't matter if you're a non-political person, your life is surrounded with politics, and everything's a political discussion. Gosh, real estate and all the government affairs and things that happen, ordinances, and it's all political.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a fun conversation because the listeners out there have heard me talking about, real estate and the interest rates and what's been happening and why that hasn't completely totally destroyed the housing market, but if it were to, how this country just kind of crumbles and falls apart overnight.
Yeah.
So we're going to get your real take on that in the next
Okay.
segment of the show. But the other thing that you mentioned that I really wanted to hit on, because we're going to stick a little bit with this whole what you
Okay.
did just before you stopped being mayor again, only because it was so phenomenal what you accomplished in getting a community on track for that fast forward pace, right? For
Right.
that to figure out how to do this without all what we call the NIMBYs out there, the not in my backyard people who
True.
are just opposed to change for the most part. Usually fear drives that, right? It's usually fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
fear of change, fear of lots of different things. But you managed to pull together this consensus of people, which is great. Not everyone can do that, and not every place or group of people is in the right mindset or place in their lives to get on board that type of train. But you also did some really interesting policy things that led by example. This is particularly important because I want to talk about for just a minute about where you came up with the inspiration of throwing everything under one roof. Talk about your one-stop shop.
Yeah. Wow. You have done your homework, Wendy. Um, the one-stop shop is basically the idea was that government is so full of waste, and you've got county and city like all in different departments, and everybody's kind of got their own silo. And here in Lee County, which is dead center of North Carolina, near Fayetteville, we have our smallness, and we didn't have all these multiple municipalities in one county to deal with. And it seemed to me that we could more easily pull off a combination of put the city and the county, put their planning departments together, put the inspections and the GIS and all those services together under one roof. And then, hey, let's go ahead and put economic development and the Chamber of Commerce, who really drive our economic community. Let's put them all together in one roof and under one roof. And by doing so, we could really achieve more. Mm-hmm. And so when you come to town with your company, and you have all these questions and all these needs, well, there's just one place to go. Instead of in the past, you'd have to go to 3 or 4 places to get your permit, one to talk to inspections, one to talk to the planning department. We put it all in an abandoned textile mill downtown San Francisco. We also revitalized a 30,000 square foot building that had become a pigeon coop. And in the process, that whole block changed. I even bought an office on that street. And so our tax base on that street went from $400,000 with a bunch of dilapidated buildings to almost $6 million when it was completed. But the one-stop shop really did change how we did business, and it made us much more friendly to investors and people that were coming in to build business. And we really just started sharing everything from the copier machine to our ideas, to our intellectual capital. And we got some awards for it. We copied it after Greensboro. They had actually done it, not quite to the extent we had, but we kind of got the idea from Greensboro and then kind of built on it, got private and public investment to put it together and to buy the bill or lease the building and consolidate all the services. So we kind of had a little bit of a metro government there, which really worked. It's still working today. It's an amazing model.
Yeah, it is, to me, something that needs to be rolled out and presented. And all the committees and stuff that I sit on, it's like, oh my gosh, I wish I had Chet in the room with me right now, because for me to talk about it, it's just like it's me telling someone else's story. But I sometimes I just wished I had you in my bag and I was toting you around to all these national meetings to be like, and it's time for the Chet show. Okay,
thank you. I mean, the way to do it is you just get every city in the county gets to have representation, right? And it was a pay to play thing. So companies could pay to be on the board of the directors of the Economic Development Corporation, but you also had appointed members from the city council and the county government, county commissioners. So you could just create this board of appointed elected officials and private investors. So everyone had a vote and a say, and you could do it almost at any county if there was a will to share and collaborate.
That's it. That's it, right? If people just stopped with that siloing, right? We have to own our space out of fear.
Right.
We have to own our space out of fear, out of losing control, out of all of these things. And we just have to give into it and work together, right? And just trust that process. Not that it's always going to be tidy, but just trust the process.
You got to give it a try. Change is not always bad.
Sometimes it's not.
It's just different.
It's not. Yeah, when it pulls us together instead of pulling us apart, it might actually be worth it. It could be. So anyway, that I wanted to really have the opportunity to have that conversation with you and just say thank you for being the leader that you have always been, but doing it on such a bigger scale than what, so many people do, than what I've ever done, than what, and to have that is you've left a legacy in Sanford, and you've left a story that people are still telling and sharing, and just good for you. Good for you. Yeah.
One of the things that we did in that vein is I started the first public-private partnerships. I got tired also of spending taxpayer money on, let the city or the county go buy all this land and let's develop an industrial park out in the cornfield. So what we did was we agreed to do the utilities and the infrastructure, and we allowed a private entity to come in and buy the land and assemble it for us. So, they got to control the land, but then we got to provide the infrastructure. And we had a private public partnership that's where all those companies came and relocated to. Pfizer expanded and Astellas came, and all these incredible investments that were made was because of we were allowing the private sector to spend their money and share in that development.
You also did something really cool though, because it's also this is where you're a business person, right? This is where the business side comes in that not all publicly elected officials get. Is you did this really, really cool thing with your little regional airstrip.
Oh yeah.
And that was one of the very first things you did. And it was people say like, what's in a name? Talk about what you did there.
So it was really interesting you bring that up. Talk about people not wanting to give up things or hold on to their identity. So we were the little Sanford Lee County Airport, and we had made the decision in like 2002 to move it out and buy a bigger piece of land. And but to get the traction that we wanted, we needed to get out of town. We needed to get RDU passengers, not passengers, but RDU flights to consider coming in. We're not a passenger airport. We're a non-passenger airport, but today we're the 9th busiest non-passenger airport in North Carolina, and the tax base is growing every year. It's about an $80 million tax base, and they don't go to school, they don't call in sick. It's big corporate airplanes that are parked here rather than in RDU. So what we did, and it was very controversial, and people fought me tooth and nail. We proposed to change it to the Raleigh Executive Jetport at Sanford Lee County, and the first passenger plane that we got to land a corporate jet was the country singer Trisha Yearwood, whose pilot said, "Hey, we need to sit down for some fuel. Where do you want to stop?" And she said, "Well, where are we?" And he said, "Well, we're close to RDU, but there's also this Raleigh exec." And he said, "That looks smaller and easier to get into." She goes, "Set it down right there." So, but had he said, "There's this little place in Sanford Airport," she'd probably said, "No, let's go to Raleigh." But anyway, it vetted out, and the concept was proven. We gained 40% growth in the very first year. Our airport grew 40%, and it keeps growing. I mean, it's a killer airport. If you want to go see a cool place and watch planes come in, there's an observation deck. You can take your coffee out there and see. I love to watch the planes fly in and out. But we've got some major corporate airplanes, Gulfstreams and stuff sitting in Sanford now that used to be parked at RDU that have loved the idea of parking their plane in the hangar in Sanford. They can get to it quicker, easier, and do their business. When Pfizer came and did a $500 million expansion, they landed their $80 million Learjet with their passenger of 5 female crew and passengers and the CEO. They flew into their airport, got in a car, and was at Pfizer in 3 minutes.
And that does not happen anywhere.
They flew in from New York that morning, and then they took off after they washed their china in our new airport. We have a place to wash the china and stuff. Then they got in that plane and flew it to Paris. So yeah, all in one day.
From Sanford, North Carolina,
From the Raleigh Executive
Paris,
Airport.
see?
And man, people thought
That's
us
right.
like, why are you, how dare you change the name to Raleigh? This is Sanford. Well, 40% growth in 1 year is why.
I bet there's no one fighting to change it back to the Sanford Executive Jetport at this point.
Not one person.
Not one person. And this is where you just have to get out of your own way sometimes. Like, set the politics aside. Let's make a practical. This is about making just choices. It's just about choices. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to go to our first commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to really be talking real estate right here on News Talk 640 WFNC with me, your host, Wendy Harris, and our special guest, Chet Mann of Guild Mortgage. We'll be back after these words.